In 1568, deep within the damp stone bowels of Toledo's cathedral, a woman named Elvira del Campo was strapped to a wooden chair. Her crime? She didn't eat pork. The inquisitors didn't use the rack or the wheel. Those left marks, and marks were messy. Instead, they inserted a cold metal device into her mouth, a segmented pear that expanded with the turn of a screw. 1 click, 2 clicks, 3. Her jaw stretched beyond the breaking point, ligaments snapping in silent agony. When they released her 6 hours later, there were no bruises on her face, no blood on the floor. To the outside world, she was untouched. But inside, she was broken. Her voice forever destroyed. Her spirit shattered. This was the genius of the Spanish Inquisition. They perfected the art of silent torture, a method designed not just to extract confessions, but to destroy a woman from the inside out while leaving the surface pristine. The history books tell you the Inquisition was about hunting heretics and Jews, but that is a lie designed to cover up a much darker truth. It was a systematic, 356-year campaign of gendered violence driven by greed and a desperate need for control. Why were 70% of the victims women? Because women held the things the church wanted most: wealth, medical knowledge, and the power of creation itself. They didn't just want to kill these women, they wanted to erase them, to turn their bodies into crime scenes where the evidence vanished the moment the torture stopped. But to understand the true scale of this horror, you have to look past the religious rhetoric and follow the money. Because the first target of this holy war wasn't the sinner, it was the widow. Imagine you are a woman in 1485. Your husband has just died, leaving you his merchant business and 3 prime properties in the city. You are grieving, but you are also independent, wealthy, and powerful. In the eyes of the Inquisition, you are a target. They developed a brutal economic algorithm. Wait for a woman to inherit, accept an anonymous accusation from a jealous neighbor or a greedy relative, and then arrest her. The burden of proof was on her, and the torture she faced was designed to be invisible so that when they stole her property, they could claim it was a voluntary penance. It was a state-sanctioned heist, a way to legally loot the wealth of women who had no male protectors, funneling their fortunes directly into the coffers of the church and the crown. Take the case of Maria Gonzalez, a wealthy widow accused of secretly practicing Jewish rituals based on nothing more than an anonymous letter. They didn't break her bones. They used a device called the spider, a heated metal claw applied to her breasts. The external wounds healed quickly, but the internal damage was excruciating and permanent. After 6 hours of this invisible fire, Maria confessed to everything meeting demons, desecrating the host, anything to make it stop. Her property was seized within a week, her daughters were left destitute, and the church walked away richer, its hands clean of any visible blood. This economic theft was brutal, but it was just the beginning. The Inquisition knew that money was power, but knowledge was dangerous, and there was one group of women who knew too much. Midwives were the ultimate threat to the church's authority. They controlled the gateway between life and death, possessing knowledge of herbs, contraception, and pain relief that male priests and doctors could not comprehend. To the church, a woman who could ease the pain of childbirth, pain that was supposed to be Eve's punishment, was defying God. So, they launched a war on female knowledge, targeting midwives with specific gynecological tortures designed to destroy their ability to practice and their ability to reproduce. These weren't just punishments, they were sterilizations. Brutal procedures meant to ensure that these women could never pass on their dangerous secrets to another generation. Devices like the vaginal pear and the breast ripper weren't just tools of pain, they were instruments of professional destruction. The vaginal pear, inserted and expanded, caused internal tearing and infection that often left women barren and in chronic pain. The breast ripper, a claw designed to shred tissue, made nursing impossible. The goal was to maim the very organs that defined womanhood and maternal power, turning the female body into a site of trauma rather than creation. The impact was catastrophic. After the execution of midwives like Isabel de la Cruz, maternal mortality rates skyrocketed. The knowledge of how to save mothers and babies was burned at the stake along with the women who held it, but the physical destruction was only half the battle. The most insidious weapon in the Inquisition's arsenal was psychological. They didn't just want women to confess, they wanted to destroy their credibility. They needed to make women look hysterical, delusional, and inherently untrustworthy so that no one would believe them. This was gaslighting on an industrial scale. By using silent torture methods like the tongue clamp or sleep deprivation, they could present a woman to the court who looked physically intact but sounded insane. Imagine being kept awake for 72 hours in a dark cell, then dragged into a bright courtroom. Your mind is fracturing, you're hallucinating, and you can barely string a sentence together. When you try to explain that you were tortured, you sound paranoid and confused. The judges nod, record your hysteria, and use it as proof that women are naturally deceptive and weak-minded. It was a perfect trap. The more you tried to defend yourself, the more you proved their point. Elvira del Campo, the woman from the beginning, confessed under torture, then recanted the next day, saying she only spoke out of pain, so they tortured her again until she confessed a second time. The official record states she returned to the truth, painting her initial denial as a lie. This systematic destruction of credibility had a long-term goal: to silence women for generations. Modern historians analyzing the records found a chilling pattern. Educated women were disproportionately targeted. Women who could read Latin, who owned books, who could potentially document what was happening to them, these were the most dangerous of all. The Inquisition wasn't just hunting heretics, it was hunting witnesses. They wanted to ensure that the only history written was their own. The ripple effects of this campaign were devastating. A study in the 1,990 seconds traced the descendants of accused witches and found that even 3 generations later, women in these families had significantly lower literacy rates and property ownership. The trauma was inherited. Mothers taught their daughters, don't learn to read, don't own land, don't stand out. Survival meant being invisible, uneducated, and poor. The Inquisition effectively froze female progress in Spain for centuries. While the rest of Europe moved into the Enlightenment, Spanish women were stuck in a dark age of fear, their potential suffocated by the memory of the stake. The Inquisition officially ended in 1834, but its legacy didn't die with it. The blueprint they created using legal systems to control women's bodies, documenting cruelty to legitimize it, and using invisible violence to destroy credibility is still being used today. We see it in how the legal system treats survivors of sexual assault, in how female activists are silenced, in how reproductive rights are rolled back under the guise of morality. The torture devices may be in museums, but the logic behind them is alive and well. The silent scream of Elvira del Campo echoes in every woman who is not believed, every woman who is stripped of her autonomy, every woman who is forced to endure pain in silence. We must recognize these patterns because history doesn't just repeat itself, it rhymes, and the only way to break the cycle is to refuse to be silent. The story of the Spanish Inquisition is a warning. It shows us what happens when a system is built on the fear of female power, but it also shows us the resilience of those who survived. Despite the terror, despite the fire, and the iron, women found ways to resist. They formed secret networks, passing down medical knowledge in whispers. They hid their books, they protected each other's daughters, and they kept the flame of their history alive in the shadows. They were the original resistance, fighting a war against a totalitarian regime with nothing but their wits and their solidarity. We are the beneficiaries of their survival. Every time a woman speaks truth to power, every time she claims her own body, every time she succeeds in a world designed to hold her back, she is defying the inquisitors of the past. We owe it to them to remember their names, to tell their stories, and to ensure that no system of silence ever holds dominion over us again. If this deep dive into the hidden history of the Inquisition opened your eyes, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell, because next week we are going even deeper into the secrets the church tried to burn. Until then, stay loud, stay visible, and never let them silence you.